What's up, guys? All right, today in the shop we have a 2007 Hummer H3. We're doing the front pads and the rotors. I'm going to show you how to do it. First thing you want to do, right in on the driver's side and just crack loose your master cylinder cap. You don't need to take it off. As you see, I'm on the front driver's side here, and what you want to do is after you take your wheel off, I didn't do this because I assume everyone knows how to take the wheel off. Just take your lug nuts off, slide the wheel off. What you want to do is either turn the steering wheel inside to get your rotor kind of angled this way, or you can, if you have enough strength, you can pull this and it'll literally turn on its own. Because what we want to do now, this is your whole cradle here and your caliper with your pads. And what we want to do, since we're changing the rotors, is you're going to have a bolt right up here. Let me pull the camera back so you can kind of see a perspective. Come over the top here and straight down. All right. You're going to have that bolt there, and then we're going to come down to the bottom. It's not this bolt, not that bolt, it's the one on the inside. And what that's going to do is going to pull this whole assembly out of there. If you look at your pads here, this is where you might want to take a picture, because this is where a lot of people will get confused. You actually have pins going through here, holding these pads in alignment here, and then you have this little clip right here. And this is where most people get all confused and they go rip it apart and all the pieces come out and they don't know how to put it back together. So take a whole picture of your unit like this as it sits. Now, before we take those bolts out, we could take these pins out here. There's a pin, you can see, slides all the way through, and it's got the cotter pin on the other end. They're on the top and the bottom. We could take them out now. Sometimes these are going to be really tight if you try to take them out before you take those two bolts out in the back, because they're stuck on the pads, and you'll find yourself banging those things, and you don't want to bend them to try to get them out. So I usually remove this whole thing first to kind of give the pads, make them a little bit looser, and this way this will slide out a little bit easier. But they still don't come out that easy because these get a lot of rust on them, so you might need a punch for that. But anyway, enough talking. Let's get these two bolts out right here. I got a 3/4 inch socket. I had already loosened these, I'm not going to lie, for sake of speeding up the video. But what I would recommend doing is soaking these bolts with PB Blaster once you get your wheels off, and walk away for like 10 minutes, and it'll make it a little bit easier. Now, in the event that you can't get them out, what you're going to need is a long ratchet like this, your 3/4 inch socket, but also a leverage bar. And you'll put your drive up there, your ratchet, and you will use the leverage bar to push down to break those nuts free. All right, now we got our bolts loose. This should be loose now, see? So get yourself a bucket or something right here, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this off and we're gonna lay it on here. You wanna be careful of this brake line right here. You don't wanna twist this, break it, or overextend it. So get a bucket that's actually high where you're able to lay this on, where it's not dangling by this brake line. I try to do this with one hand here. These are rather heavy. There we go. And you can see, I'm going to set it right here on my bucket. Let me scoot it in a little bit closer. There we go. See? And there's no stress on this brake line right now. Right here is where I want you to take a note, because when you get your pads out, this is where a lot of people go wrong. The pads, you see this clip here on the bottom of this one pad? Notice they both don't have it. So when you go to your new pads, and if you put two of these on with this on the bottom, what's going to happen when you try to slide it on the rotor? Your caliper's not going to go all the way down, because that clip, that's going to hit. Okay, so the brake pad that has that on it, that goes on the back when you put it on, because this can go up, the pad can go a lot deeper on the back. So just take note of that when you go to put this back on. If it's not lining up, you probably have this pad over here in the wrong spot. So now we're going to go ahead and, again, be careful of your brake line when you move this around. We're going to just flip this over on its back. And we're going to go ahead, and a lot of times you could just pull these little pins out, these little cotter pins like that. You just pull right out. Don't lose them, because you do need to put them back in there. And take out one on each end. Now, you'd be lucky if these just slide right out. You see it came up there, and now this is where it gets tricky, because they get tough to pull out. So there's a couple of different tools that I use with this. One Where is it? My pliers here. Take a pair of pliers and just kind of wiggle back and forth and push up at the same time. And you can usually get that to free up, but these get rust on them, so they get a little finicky to get out of there. Come on out of there. People are watching. Come on. Once you have it pried up enough and you got a little bit of a gap underneath of it, you can take a screwdriver now and just get under there and kind of, there it goes, it's coming up now. Kind of just push up on the screwdriver. And that will, there you go. Now the pin's out. Just keep note when you're pulling this pin out, you see how this little clip, let me see if I can get some light over there. There we go. You see how this clip is, the pin slides through this clip. So take note of that. So that when you're putting this back on, you can put it the same way. I'm gonna need to pry with my screwdriver again here. All right, I'm gonna need 2 hands. And it's out. Let me show you what I was talking about with this clip here. The pin actually goes through the clip like that. Now you're going to need your C-clamp. That's why we loosened the master cylinder cap up there. We're going to put our C-clamp on over the brake pad. Leave the old brake pads on there for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to compress these pistons back in so we can make room for the new pads. You can see my clamp up there. This side on this side. This side is over the pad. And now we just want to crank. Keep turning until you see that compress all the way in. And normally this will get really tight and you won't be able to turn this anymore. Alright, I think we're all the way in on that side. Now we slid our clamp over to the other side. Same thing. We're going to crank until that piston goes in. I think we're all the way in now. This pad we can slide out. Sometimes they'll come out of the top. Sometimes you could just lift up the caliper and push it through the bottom as well. We get a lot of rust buildup in here. It makes it difficult. There we go. Went right out the bottom. So you can see both of these are now pressed all the way in. All right, and now we're going to get the clamp and we're going to do this one over here. So I'm going to flip this over like this. And we're going to go at it from this side and squeeze them in. If you have a big clamp, it might be hard to turn because your rotor's in the way. But at this point, once you took those lug nuts off, this should be loose. And we can just slide this rotor off of here now. I should just slide right off. Just like that. Now, a lot of times, these will be rusted on here, but you can see how wet this is. I literally had this soaking in PB Blaster for like a half hour before I started this job. If it's still stuck, you're going to have to if you're replacing the rotor anyway, then just get yourself a little mini sledge and go around and hit the back of the rotor and then spin it, hit the back of it, and then spin it, hit the back, and it will eventually start working its way off of there. There's no bolts or nothing holding that on other than those lug nuts. So, you know, you don't have to go over moving your center bolt here or anything. It's just stuck on there from rust. Soak it, let it sit, and it should come off. If not, you're going to have to beat it. But anyway, rotor's out of the way. Now I can get my clamp on this side. All right, both sides are compressed. I was able to slide them pads right out. Now the new rotor, we can just slide right up on there. Line up your holes. Push that right on there. Now, you see how you have this wobble here? When you go to put that caliper on there, it might be a little difficult because this is going to wobble on you. So what you can do is take a lug nut here, and whatever side is pushing out, in this case it looks like the bottom wants to push out. We're just going to put one lug nut on there. Push that in with my knee here. Put this lug nut all the way up. Like so. There, now you don't have any wobble in your rotor. Alright, back onto the caliper now. So to put your pads back in here, you want to remember the one with the clip? So that one is going to go down, and that's the one that goes on the inside. The way this caliper is going to go on, I'll show you. It's actually going to slide on that way. Now take note of the hose, the brake hose. The brake hose comes out and down. That's how you know you got the caliper going back on the right way. It's going to slide in on this side because this will be our back side. All right. Now remember those pins we took out? You have a hole in the top of each pad. It's going to line up with the holes on the caliper. All right. We'll just set them in there for now, and then we'll line them up in a second. There's only holes on the top of this, so you can't really mess this up. There's none on the bottom. And that one's going to go on this side. And you have to play with them a little bit, and they'll drop in place. All right. Our pads are in there. We'll take our pin here. We'll start in the back. Now, if it's not lined up, the hole, these pads might be a little tight in there. Sometimes you can take your, just really gently, and just tap on your pad. Try to get that hole to line up. Let's see how far off we are here. I might need my other hand a second. All right, I had to do a little finagling with this. I actually had to pull the pad out and reset it and tap it to get this to line up. But we got that one lined up, so now we're going to try to feed it all the way through. And that's why you don't want to bend these when you're taking them out, because the slightest bend can make these real tough to get in. So we want to push it all the way through so that it comes out this other side. And we may need to tap on that again to get it to go through. These things are a little pain in the butt. Alright, we're going to get some WD-40. See, normally I would edit all this out, but I do want you to see the grind. So a lot of the guys will just make it look easy and go, oh, it's simple as that. I'm going to get a little WD-40 and just spray it in here in the hole. I don't want to really soak the pad with it, but I want to squirt a little bit in the hole here. Oh, there she goes. All right, we are all the way through there. Take your little pin and put it back in the end there. You should be able to turn this by hand now, but make sure that pin is all the way in there. All right, our back is secure. Now we're going to go to the front. All right, so let's get the let's set this right there. Let's get this pin started going through the hole here, which might be a little difficult. Oh, no, it went through. All right, so once you get that through there, now here's our pin. All right, we want to slide that piece over there. All right, oh, we went too far down because we want this the pin to go through this loop also. Okay, like that. Now, you'll see the other hole in these pads. That's where the other part of this pin here is going to drop into those holes. Like that. It goes up and it drops into that hole. Same thing with this side. We're going to make it. Did it go in there? There we go. All right. Oh, that one actually came right through. All right, good. That one might have been a little bent. So let's put our pin now on this side. There's our pin. Push it in. Make sure it's all the way in there. Okay, and we are through the other side. All right. Our pads are back in. I'm gonna lift it up and it should slide right over the rotor as long as you got those pistons pushed in enough. And there it goes, it drops right in. Now you can see why we had to push those pistons in, because see how much wider these pads are than the older ones you took off. So if we didn't push them in, it wouldn't have slid over top of this rotor. It wouldn't have gave us enough room here. You can see our clip is back in, everything is good. Now you just want to take your 2 bolts, where are they at? In the very beginning of this video, remember the one on the top and the one on the bottom. And you may have to jiggle this around a little bit to get those bolts to line up. And that's it. Your new rotor is on. Put your bolts back on, throw your wheel on. Check your brake fluid on the master cylinder here. Make sure that you didn't lose any fluid, that it's not empty. But go ahead and tighten your cap up after you do that. Go back in the truck, start the truck up. Maybe pump the brakes very, very slow at first. Just get those caliper pistons to start coming out and get those brakes to seal, those brake pads to set firmly against that rotor. Remember, when you first try to drive this, your brakes might feel a little bit weird until it builds up that pressure and they start working right. If you have any issues where you're hitting the brakes and it feels like it's pulling right away, well then you may have a problem with one of your calipers, and that's a whole separate video. But that's it. Just don't jump in the truck and take right off. Just take it slow, pump the brakes a couple times, make sure they're both working properly. All right, guys, and that's it. So please hit subscribe below, give me a thumbs up. I'll see you next time.